question number 25, and if you haven't had a chance to go ahead and take the diagnostic, it's located under the files tab. And what it is, it's a full length practice test that covers every single topic that you could possibly see. Now, although there are different variations of the topics, I chose the ones that I felt like you guys were most likely to see based on my experience with the test. But of course, there are an array of different questions. You may have seen some questions on here that you may not see on your test. You may have seen some questions on here that you may see something similar to your test. So it all just kind of depends, because there are so many different versions of the TEAS that you have to be aware that everybody's not going to always get the same test. Sometimes people get the same test, but not all the time. All right, so we look at question number 25. It says 2 1/8 times 4 2/3. And if we look at our answer choices, we have 8 1/12. We have 9 11/12. We have 12 over 119. And then we also have 8 3/16. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and work it out full out, just to kind of show you guys step by step how it should be done. But as we do this, I'm also going to show you guys how to play off your multiple choice questions, because sometimes there are ways that you can kind of lead yourself to the right question without having to overthink it, especially for my people who don't have the really strong sub skills of like reducing fractions and things like that. This is when your calculator is going to come in hand. It's going to really help you to be able to excel. So if we look at our question, this is number 25 on the diagnostic. And remember, if you haven't had a chance to take the diagnostic, it's located under the files tab, which is at the very top of the group. And this is number 25. So we have 2 1/8 times 4 2/3. So if you tuned into the review, the mini review for the fractions yesterday, remember, my best advice is always, whenever you're dealing with mixed numbers, is always to convert them to improper fractions. So let me get a different color marker. So the way that we do that, perfect. So the way that we do that is we multiply our whole number times our denominator, and then whatever we get from that, we add it to the numerator. So 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17, and then we keep the same denominator in this case, which would be 8. All right, so same thing here. We're going to do 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 2 is going to give us 14. I know my upside down handwriting is horrible, but just bear with me. 14 over 3. All right, and then from here, whenever we're multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across. So you do top to top, bottom to bottom. So we're going to do 17 times 14, and then we're going to do 8 times 3. And of course, remember what I told you guys, anytime we're doing any type of arithmetic, even if it's basic, utilize your calculator, because as you guys are testing, in testing conditions, you guys are going to tend to think a little bit differently, and you're going to be more likely to make a mistake, okay? And in that sense, in making a mistake, we always want to use the tools that they give us to make sure that we, what's the word? that we reduce the possibility of making a mistake, okay? So please make sure that your calculator is your best friend. If you guys have not seen, I dropped it somewhere on the feed. Walmart carries the 4-function calculators for $1. You can get them really from anywhere, but I just know that we all go to Walmart. Or you can probably go to the dollar store, but I would like for you guys to physically start practicing, doing your practice test with the 4-function calculator so you're familiar with it. Because if you get in a groove of using your phone, or if you use a scientific calculator, like I'm doing cheating using the graphing calculator, I'm going to get a real calculator today, a 4-function, so that I won't be using this one. But you want to practice just like you're going to test. That's the best advice I can give you. So 17 times 14 gave us 238, and 8 times 3, whew, that is ugly. It's 24. Let me rewrite that. All right, so that leaves us with 238 over 24. So remember, we can't leave it in this form. Anytime we have an improper fraction, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to change it back to a mixed number. Now, this is where I'm going to insert a slight shortcut just for some of you guys who kind of see big numbers and you get like really, really anxious, right? So in this case, okay, we have 238 over 24. So I'm going to use my calculator to go ahead and divide this down just to give me a rough idea as to what the answer is going to be. So if I do 238 divided by 24, that's going to give me 9.917. And that's just a rough estimate. So based on our multiple choice answers, because this is when a strategy comes in. So remember what I told you guys. When I do my tutoring is half content, half strategy. Because we have to remember that the content is very important in terms of mastering, but you still have to be able to maneuver through a test. It's very unlikely, unless you're really, really, really a math person, kind of like me, or people who really love math, that you're gonna know how to do every single question on the test. It's very unlikely, unless you have time to study for months and you've really been on it. I mean, the reality is that you guys have lives, you have kids, you have jobs, so sometimes you have to get the best out of your time that you can get. So this is a situation, I always say fractions is a real good example of how we can play on this and we can do our process of elimination. So I know, okay, this is approximately somewhere around 9.917. Well, I know based on my multiple choice, there's only one answer that fits that, which is going to be B, because that's 9 and 11 12s. And people are like, oh, well, how what if I had 2 9s? Okay, well, I know 9 my whole number. If I do 11 divided by 12, just change it to a decimal, that's going to give me 0.917 approximately. So, of course, that would be our answer. So, this is when I say our shortcuts come in. We talk about strategy. Now, I'm still going to work it all the way out so you guys can see it. But this is the type of thinking that I need you guys to get in. Don't rely so much on fully doing the question out all the time, because sometimes you're going to be in the boat to where you can do your process of elimination and you can get your answer versus us having to go back, reduce down, convert back to a mixed number when it's right in your face. So that's the kind of boat I want you guys to be in. Now, don't get in the groove of trying to take a shortcut every chance you get, but in certain situations, like I say with fractions, it's so easy to get rid of a lot of the answers that are available and then kind of go with what's right. Hey, how you doing?
Hanging in here.
All right, I'll be
See a
done.
lot of people with those slides.
Oh, they love
They're
it.
cute, yeah.
All right, I'll be done in a little bit.
Oh,
I'll
you
be
feel
done.
me?
Yeah, I'm live. Oh, no, you're okay. It's okay. All right, so if we try to reduce down 238 over 24, of course, if we divide it out, we got 9.917 approximately. So I know that 24 can divide into 28 9 times. So that's going to be my whole number. So if I do 24 times 9, that's going to be 216. So 216 from 238 is going to give me a remainder of 22. So that leaves us with 9 and 22 over 24. Now remember what I told you guys, this is a sub-skill of converting improper fractions to mixed numbers. So if this is a skill that you have not mastered, this is the part of this is the part of working with operations with fractions that's going to give you a problem. And that's the part that I try to get people to understand all the time, is that most of the time when you have a certain topic, so in this instance we're dealing with fractions, there's a certain skill within this particular problem that you haven't mastered. Normally, it's not the entire process. Like normally when we're multiplying fractions, we're just multiplying top to bottom. So top, bottom, bottom. And if you have your calculator, you're good. This may be a sub-skill, so converting from improper fractions to mixed numbers, that may be giving you a problem. So that's why I say we have to use our shortcuts. Sometimes if you haven't mastered a skill, you have to do what best suits you for the time being, for that particular time period. So we know 22 over 24 can also be reduced down by 2, which will give us 11 12s, which is the same thing as what we already figured out when we took our shortcut. So you guys kind of see how we maneuver through it. You have to tailor this based on what you feel the most comfortable with. Some people don't like taking shortcuts. Some people like to work it fully out, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I always say we have to maneuver through the test because you guys only have 54 minutes. And if math is something that's already giving you trouble, you want to cut that time down as much as possible. But we also want to make sure we're doing it the correct way. I got 3 more questions. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at number 26. And of course, if you guys have any questions, let me check real quick to see if y'all do before I move on, because I know fractions is a really hot topic. I dropped my marker. Oh, you can sit down.
Look at me. Okay. Cool.
All right, so again, the practice test is going to be located at the very top of the page under the Files tab. It's a PDF form that I actually uploaded. So at the very top of the page where it has, what's it have? It has like albums, it has files, it has photos. It's like a lot of different links, like right at the top of the page. Like if you were getting ready to upload something or like type something, they'll give you different tabs for you to be able to see it. All right, so let's look at number 26. So we have 4 1/9 divided by 1 2/7. And then our answer choices are 4 7/18, 3 16/81, 5 2/7, and 3 2/7. All right, so we look at our problem. We have 4 1/9 divided by 1 2/7, and these are our answer choices. So anytime we're dealing with mixed numbers, remember we got to work on those triggers. Your initial trigger is going to be to convert these to improper fractions. That's the very first thing that you're going to have to do. So in doing so, that's when you multiply your whole number times your denominator. And again, this is another sub-skill that you have to master to be able to maneuver through these types of problems. So remember, when we're doing any type of math, you have to figure out what part of that concept is giving you a problem. So maybe the very beginning is giving you a problem, which kills your confidence for the rest of the problem, equation or whatever. But that's the boat. That's what you have to be able to identify. That's what's really going to help you to excel, is if you are able to identify what specifically is giving you a problem, because it's not everything. It's just certain small things that you may not have mastered. So if we do 4 times 9, that's 36. And then 36 plus 1, that gives us 37 over 9. Y'all know my handwriting upside down is horrible. All right, and then we do 1 times 7, which is 7, plus 2, which gives us 9. And of course, anytime we're converting from a mixed number to improper, the denominator stays the same. All right, so yesterday we talked about the strategy in terms of dividing fractions. So you have to use the KFC or KCF, or however you want to use the acronym, in so many different ways. But we'll just say KCF, which stands for keep, change, flip. So anytime we're dividing fractions, you're always going to keep your first fraction the same. I should make that smaller. All right, so we keep the first fraction the same, so that will remain 37 over 9. You always change the division sign to multiplication, and you're going to flip the second one, so you're going to do the reciprocal of that. And then now we're back in the same boat that we were in the previous problem. So now we're back to multiplying fractions. So this is the part that is really important. You have to make sure that you keep, change, flip, or keep, flip, change, or keep, change, change. There's so many different ways that or acronyms that they've created for you to be able to memorize that skill, but this is very important when we divide fractions. And then from here, now we're doing what we did in our previous problem. So we're going to do top to top and bottom to bottom. Don't let the big numbers scare you, because you got to remember they're giving you guys a calculator. So a lot of the times that's a mental block that people tend to have, because they're like, I don't know how to multiply that big, I don't know how to divide that big, but use your calculator. All right, so 99 gave us 81, and 37 and 7 gave us 259. So we use the same strategy that we used in our last question before even trying to convert this back to an improper. If I go ahead and divide that out, 259 divided by 81, that's going to give me 3.197. So if we use our process of elimination strategy, I know that C is going, because that's 5, A is going, because that's 4. So that leaves me with 3 and 16 over 81 and 3 and 2/7. So if I convert these both to decimals, we go ahead and approximate them out. I know that 16 divided by 81 is 0.197. And I know that 2 divided by 7 is 0.286. So it's obvious that this will be our answer, because we've approximated the value. Now, of course, if you're one of those people and you want to go ahead and work it all the way out, we already see that 81 can go into 259 3 whole times. So 81 times 3 is 243, and 259 minus 243 is 16. And of course we keep the same denominator of 16 over 81, which is still our answer. So again, that just goes back to preference. If you feel like you're in the boat and you want to take the shortcut, I don't have any problem with that. If you want to go ahead and work your problem all the way out, fully out, it's no problem with that, because I have to keep reminding you guys that the way that everybody executes their problem is so different. So the way that I teach this concept isn't the same way that somebody else may teach the concept. I do it based on my classroom experience, based on my experience with the students who I tutor, and I recognize that everybody's not going to intake the information the same, especially with fractions, because a lot of you guys just have a really high anxiety when it comes to fractions, and with that, it just makes it 10 times harder for you guys to be able to retain. All right, let's go to number 27. So we just have this one and one more, and then I have one request for a problem, and then we'll be done. What you think? Yeah,
That was easy. I mean, that broke it down way, because I was freaking out when I was looking at it.
yeah, it's not that bad. I know from working with younger kids though that starts in elementary school. So because it's so fast paced, like with the pace in math, and because teachers have to teach certain topics within a certain time frame, if the kids don't master it, it's like they kind of get left behind. It's like that has been happening forever.
Show your work thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where, you know, in college
Yeah, by the time you get to college, they don't even want to go over the sub skills though, because that's something that they expect for you guys to be able to.
That was a big cut though, just getting that back number without the fraction to fully work it out.
Yeah, that's why I was
That's
telling
a
people
good strategy.
with tests like this, because you know it's multiple choice, it's no point in you trying to master that skill if you don't have the time, because this isn't something that you're going to carry with you into your nursing career.
Right.
So that's the only reason why I say that. Now when I'm in the classroom, of course I make my kids work it out, because I want them to know how to do it from front to back. But in this case, I think a lot of people, what they do is they take the math and they over exaggerate it.
And then you're freaking out because of the time is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say it's half strategy, half content. You have to know the content, but you still have to be aware that there are ways to strategize. And any type of standardized test that has been created, it's always some type of strategy to it. But a lot of people aren't going to teach you that. I want you to work smart, not work so hard. All right, so let's get into subtracting. So now we have 9/8 minus 7/11. So when we're dealing with addition and subtraction, remember I showed you guys the butterfly method yesterday, which makes everything 10 times easier. So if you missed it with the butterfly method, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our denominators together. In doing so, this is going to give us a common denominator. It won't always end up being the least common denominator, which is fine. I just prefer this method because it's a lot easier for people to be able to retain, because they don't have to worry about that sub skill of trying to find the least common denominator. So we do 8 times 11, which is 88, and then we're going to cross multiply. So remember, I told you guys, if you go along with the flow of the book, at this point, once you get to fractions, you cross multiply so many times with ratios, proportions, and percentages. It's going to come second nature to you. If this is something you haven't done on a regular basis, and of course it's going to be a little bit harder for you. So when I say cross multiply, we're going to multiply diagonally. So we're going to do 8 and 7, which gives us 56. Is that a 5? Yep. And we're going to do 9 and 11, which gives us 99. And we always subtract with our larger number first. So we're going to do 99 minus, definitely not a 5, 56. Then 99 minus 56 is going to give us 43. So we have 43 over 88. And of course, this can't be reduced down. So our answer would be D. So one more time, if you missed it yesterday, make sure you go check out my video when I showed you guys how to add and subtract fractions given the butterfly method, which seems to be a lot easier than finding the least common denominator for certain people. If you have already mastered that skill of finding the least common denominator, stick with that, okay? I don't want you to get in the boat to where you feel like you have to acquire a new way of doing something if it's already working for you. So one more time from the top, anytime we add or subtract fractions, what we do is we multiply our denominators together. So that gave us 88, and then we're going to cross multiply our values. So we're gonna do 9 and 11, which gave us 99, 8 and 7, which gave us 56. And then once we subtract those out, it gives us 43 over 88, which is gonna be D. And that's it. And I know people say, oh my God, is that really it? Yeah. It's really not any harder than that. You just have to get in the groove of practicing it over and over and over again. When I say over and over and getting it right, like not practicing and getting it wrong like 10 times. Because if you're getting it wrong that many times, that means that you haven't identified which part of the process is giving you a problem. They give you a calculator, so computation should not be an error, ever. Use your calculator. Maybe it's the setup, maybe it's the process, but you have to be able to identify what the problem is. Alright, so let's look at our last one, number 28. So if you guys notice as we're going through the fractions, I'm not stumbling and I'm not having to overthink. It's really straightforward. You have to find the method that works the best for you and your thought process. What's going to be the easiest way for you to be able to get to the right answer? Are you going to have to do a full out? Are you going to have to strengthen those sub skills? Are you going to be able to take the shortcuts? Are you not going to be able to take the shortcuts? That's just something that you have to decide. And I always recommend, like, if you don't have a tutor and it's really hard for you to get a tutor, get somebody who has that background knowledge so they can help you with it versus you trying to help yourself. I don't know why some people don't like getting tutors, which is weird. But if you can afford to, make sure that you do. Alright, so for this one, we're adding 3 fractions. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday as well. Oh, wait. We gotta do the answer choices first. So for A, we had 1 and 13 thirtieths. For B, we had 1/2. C, we had 1 and 1/10. And then for D, we had 13 thirtieths. If you guys notice, I go in and out of proper math vocabulary because I don't really feel like that's necessary all the time, unless I'm in a classroom. For this test, it's definitely not that necessary. Alright, so anytime you guys have multiple fractions, and this is just my preference, you don't have to do it this way. There are a variety of ways that you can do it. One way that I do like as well that I'll show you guys is converting everything to decimals. That's always my go-to, because I don't really like doing fractions 24/7 either. But I'll show you guys how to do it in fraction form. So if we have more than 2 fractions, what I like to do is I like to combine 2 fractions at a time. And then you just go from there. So if we use our butterfly method, we create our fraction with our sign at the top, and then we multiply. So we do 5 times 3, which gives us 15. And then we're going to cross multiply. So 1 and 5 gives us 5. And 3 and 3, that gives us 9. So if we go ahead and add those together, 5 and 9 gives us 14. So that's 14/15. And then we're going to go ahead and drop our next fraction down. So now we're going to do 14/15 plus 2. I know it's ugly upside down. Bear with me. 2/4. All right, and we do the same exact thing. Butterfly. So 15 times 4 is going to give us 60. And remember to always use a calculator. All right, we go up top. 14 and 4. That's 64. And 2 and 15, that's going to give us 30. So let me rewrite it. So we end up with 64 plus 30 over 60. 64 and 30 is 94. 94 over 60. All right, so of course we can take the shortcut and use our calculators to get us out of here real quick. So I know that 94 over 60, that's going to give me 1.567 if we approximate it. So I know I can automatically eliminate B. I can automatically eliminate D. So that leaves me with 1 and 1/10 and 1 and 13 over 30. So I already know that 1/10 is 0.1. So that's definitely going to be out of there. And if we do 13/30, oh wait, did I make a mistake? Maybe I did. See? This is why I told y'all use y'all calculators. Because I said 14 times 4 was 64 and it's 56. Okay. 56. See how I made that mistake, but I was able to go back and identify it. So that's the thing too. You know how sometimes you're like in a really good groove, right? And then you get to your answer choice, you're like, where's my answer? It's not there. Just go back. That's exactly what I did. I went back to all of my small stuff, and I knew that I did my computation in my head, even though I told y'all not to do it. So don't be like me. Do the right thing. But I was able to identify what my mistake was. So 14 and 4 is 56, and 56 and 30 is 86. My bad, y'all. When we do 86 divided by 60, that gives us 1.433, and we know that 13 divided by 30 is 0.433. So of course the answer in this case would be A. Alright, and that's if you take the shortcut. If you don't take the shortcut, we know that 60 can go into 86 a total of 1 times, with the remainder of 26 over 60, and of course that can be reduced by 2 to 13 over 30, which would still give us the same answer. I know my upside down writing is bad, but y'all get the gist of it, right? So again, from the top, anytime they give you guys multiple fractions, group them in 2 so that you're using the skill that you already have. If you don't want to do that, you can also convert these all to decimals and add them, and then just compare them to the answer choices that they give you. It's so many different ways that you guys can execute the problem. It's just up to you and what works the best for you and what you're going to be able to retain, okay? And that was question number 28 from the diagnostic test. All right, so I did get an inbox about an additional question, so I'm going to go ahead and work this out for that nice young lady really quick. And then I'll come back and I'll do the review questions from the fractions that I posted yesterday. I'll just couple that with the review questions from the conversions that I did the other day, because I have a quick session really quick with somebody, a quick meeting really. And I need to get it out of the way. All right, so the question that I got to my inbox was 10 1/2 times 4/3. Let me double check to see if we have any questions before. Okay, cool. All right, so the question I got, the problem that I got a question about was 10 1/2 times 4/3. So remember, anytime you guys see a mixed number, and it doesn't have to always be 2 mixed numbers. Anytime you guys see a mixed number, what you want to do is you want to convert it to an improper fraction. So you multiply the whole number times the denominator, and then you add that to the numerator, or the number at the top. So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 is 21. So that's going to give us 21 over 2. And then we just bring down our 4/3. And then from there, we just multiply top to top and bottom to bottom. So I know that 21 times 4 is 84. And 2 times 3 is 6. Trying to figure out how to write a 6 upside down. Oh. All right, and if we do 84 divided by 6, that doesn't go all the way, does it? I don't think so. Oh, it does. 84 divided by 6, that's 14. So, and that's gonna be our answer. So again, if they give you guys a mixed number and a fraction, in this case improper, convert this to an improper every time, and just go ahead, multiply straight across, top to top, bottom to bottom, and then you reduce it down. In this case, we just reduce down to a whole number. And of course, if not, if you guys would like for me to do a video on the sub skills of finding like the greatest common factors to be able to reduce them down, I will. But that's just a sub skill that is so old from like elementary. I want you guys to really, really, really stress about it to that extent when you have a calculator. And it's not like the test is filled with fractions. I mean, now there are a lot from what I've been told, but not to the extent that you have to over stress yourself out. Okay, you got to pick and choose what you're gonna stress about. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much.